first. Go ahead, Mr. Boland.
Thank you, Councilman Paul. The first item of business we want to bring to council this evening is the police department court facility project review. Chris, if you could summarize for council where we are with this project. I think we've had a number of correspondences back and forth between the city and the county commissioners relative to the Justice Center. I think we had some items that we wanted them to take into consideration, and they asked us for some clarification. We provided that clarification. Can you kind of, so I think we're at a point where we have that information. Both the city and the county are set, but if you could kind of give us a little overview of where we are with that, and also with our consultant on the feasibility study, I would appreciate it.
Yes, the commissioners did have some questions, as you mentioned, regarding our needs, and Mr. Boland did respond to the commissioners' questions and provided them with information, and so now we're waiting for them to get back to us with the answers to the questions that were originally asked regarding the different aspects of the building that I believe Mr. Boland went over the last time. With regard to the design build team of Grand Center Carroll, we have there were a few minor issues that a member of the City Council mentioned at the last meeting regarding the proposal, and those were all addressed, and they did work those items into their proposal, and contracts have been signed, and they are working on their analysis of the various scenarios that were listed in the proposal, including moving to the jail, et cetera, with regard to this building, building a new building with police and fire, or rehabbing this building. So they're currently working on it, and will be. They're hopeful that sometime in mid-February they'll be able to report back to us, not with the final report, but at least with something that we can all look at and go over and say, are we in the right direction? More like a draft to get the project moving and get us on the right direction.
And so, Chris, would you say that they are on schedule to complete their analysis sometime in March?
I'd say, yeah, hopefully by mid-March, they'll be completed.
And I wonder, you mentioned a kind of a mid-project preliminary or draft. Would that be available if we were on this same time frame next month for the city?
Yeah.
Would it be available for
assuming
the
they're
to
able
look at?
Assuming they're able to keep on schedule, then yes.
Very good. I would ask any council members at this time if they had any questions for Chris and myself, the chief, on this project.
Yeah, I have a question on your email. I think you replied to the commissioners. We're looking at 10,000 square feet. Is that what we have over here, or how do we come up to 10,000 number? Because
Yeah, Chris and chief, I know you did some, and Anthony was involved.
When we took the tour with Commissioner Graham, he showed us the area that was available. 2 weeks ago, I think Anthony Odo and I went down and measured that area.
do we need that big of an area?
Yes.
What do we currently have?
Here?
Yes.
I don't know. We just went because I think that whole side was intended at one time for the police department. But that's what we need. I mean, because you got to realize not just that upstairs above us, there's boxes upon boxes of files. And that's the same way with the court room. The court has a lot of files upstairs. So there's a lot of storage space also.
So I think Mike, our response was roughly analogous to what they showed us.
Oh, I remember what they showed us when I took the tour, but it seemed, at least the comments that people were making when we took the tour, was this might be bigger than we need. And I think they did talk about where we could store some of our files. I mean, we shouldn't get any bigger than we need because they're going to charge us per square foot.
We should get what we need.
We should get what we need. And if 10,000 is what we need, then that's what we need. But if 7,000 is what we need, we should get 7,000.
You know, I think a lot of that too will come out of, hopefully from Greg-Com and Princeton or Carroll. They'll be able to show us efficiencies. That, I would hope that would come out of
Is that
that.
part of what they're doing?
Yeah, and I think we know we're not efficiently utilizing that. I guess we are efficiently utilizing what we have, but we know that it's not optimal what we're working with over there. So that would be my only caution. I think what we have now is it's hard to use that as a foundation for making future projections, but we certainly should have our square footage or our needs should be vetted through our consultant. And yeah, if there's a way to get what we need and use it efficiently and not have more than that, that's, yeah, we don't need extra space if we don't need it.
No.
I got a question also on that same email, parking spots. Are there 90 parking spots down there available, bro? There's 89, you say. So you need 100.
There's a great deal of parking that the city had that put in when they built the jail across Washington Street. You go down there, you see that parking is there is south of Washington Street, across from the sewage treatment plant, all that paved public parking, and there's a lot of space available there. There should be more than enough.
But for our police officers to be walking a block over or out
Well,
a block
that-
over.
Yeah, that's, a lot of it's public parking, not really.
You know, I think we want to make certain we get it right. We don't want too much, but we don't want to, you know, if we were to go over there, we want to make certain it's what it supports our needs. But again, I would, myself, I'm reserving judgment for our consultant to analyze it. I think it asks a lot of the same questions that council's asking. Could we do it this way? Is it the best way? And vet that through them. Again, the Justice Center, in my mind, is an equal option to anything else. I don't know if it's the best or not the best. I think we'll find that out in the next 2 months or so.
Will we bring up the conditions in which that building was built, as far as grants that they used that was gotten from the cities? You know, we were supposed to go there with no rent as a trade, I thought at one point, Chief, is that correct? Like that?
Well, I suppose Councilman Davis, obviously, once we get through or when our consultant gets through a certain part in their analysis and we figure out whether the Justice Center can sustain our operations, simply will be an additional negotiation and discussion. Absolutely. Council's direction input is going to be critical in that. So that will probably be the, yeah, that'll be out there. Absolutely.
Mr. Metcalf.
Thank you, Willie. I know there's been informal talks about the number, how much they're going to charge us per square foot. But I think once we get everything back in from Greg-Com and we compare out, we need a firm number from them. That'll be a fair way to compare whether we're going there, staying here, renovating, building new. We need to have that number.
Right. You need a number to go there, the number to, what are our costs now, what are our savings if we move here. It'll be a fairly detailed financial analysis. Be part of this, absolutely.
One thing, and I know Mike brought it up, and he makes a valid point, and he said you hope that it's in the report. I think you need to send something to Greg-Com that says we need to know exactly what square footage. That way we know we're paying for what we need to pay for. That is our option.
They give us the,
Yes,
not hope it-
let's not hope that it's in the report. Let's get it in the report.
I can correct. I think I just spoke. It'll be.
According to our email that I received, it was what the chief asked for, 10,000 square feet plus an additional 2,700 for the, I think it was for the, let me see.
Storage.
No, for the, approximately 2,000 for the courtroom. We're not including the courtroom. This includes existing space, not including the courtroom. So we're asking for, is it almost 13,000 square foot, or is it, we're asking for 10,000 square feet? That's including the courtroom and the additional space for, is that for 10,000? Is that what I'm getting here? Or, I don't know. I added up to 13,000, almost 12,900.
The 12,900 is both police and municipal court.
Okay.
Without a municipal court judge sitting right now, it's difficult to say what their space needs might be, but.
We have an election for that here, so.
Yeah, but what we did was we took what space municipal court currently has, including their storage, and use that number to arrive at that figure. And there are courtrooms down there, and so we excluded the actual courtroom space from that. That's why it says excluding the courtroom.
That was for employee
Yes.
record.
Yes, yes. Employees and storage.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
When does this do, the report? Are they going to give us information?
Looking at the end of March,
Or
and hopefully a draft in February. And, if we do have that available, we will bring that here to Safety Committee for review
maybe take action on it?
next month. See what, and if we're
Let's do it right.
concerned about anything, we can take corrective action at that point.
Let's do it right, so do it right. Not like last time.
Any other questions on item 2? Okay. Next, we'll go on to item 3, emergency preparedness plan. Mr. Boland?
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Paul. If Chief Capaldi and Commissioner Smith could give us a update on the emergency preparedness plan, I appreciate it.
We put out for proposals for our consultant to help us with the emergency response plan. Our current one is outdated and needs some work. I put out for 3 proposals. I got 1 in. We're waiting for 2 more. They're due by February 1st. Once we get those proposals, my goal is to have it drafted and in place by the end of June. So myself, Shalita, and the chief are all on that committee, and we're working on our emergency response plan, and like I said, it should be updated and in place by June. We do have a current one, but we're looking to update it and bring it into present day terms.
That's the update.
That's the one that
You have to answer any questions.
that was what we discussed with Patty Rita before she left. I asked about that preparedness plan. Say in case we had a chlorine spill like back in the, was it 70s or 80s? I can't remember exactly. I think it was 80s. Maybe it was 70s. I can't remember. I wasn't married at the time. I do remember that because I was a bachelor. I remember that very well. Don't want to go any further. But yeah, I got to get out of this. Okay, so we have something updated since that.
Well,
In
yes.
case something like that happened.
Before Patty left, Patty and our past chief did the current emergency response plan probably about 7 to 8 years ago. Was it that long? 8 or 9. So that's the one we have in place. It needs updated.
Well, it didn't change since.
Department-wise, everyone pretty much has their own response plan. This is the citywide emergency response plan. Like if we have an emergency that my department has to go to, we have plans and procedures we're supposed to follow. The health department has their plans, M&R has their plans. This is when everyone needs to come together for something large. Like you said, like the spill that went down the river, or a weather,
A couple months ago.
weather incident.
The ball up.
Yeah, any
That's
health
scary.
type
Yes.
issues. Yeah, this is something that really needs updated, and with as many new department heads we
since we have money in our safety fund, can we help with this through, would I say a consultant or?
It's already been budgeted.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, that was discussed last year.
I just want to make sure we have
It's got
something.
approved in the budget.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
It's
I was
not a
just-
large
we didn't have
amount.
money, I was going to offer it.
I think we're on the right track. Carl brings up a good point, and I think
We have, we gave $50,000 for, I'm sorry, Tim, go ahead.
And the discussion is very accurate. I know my impression of it when I read through it, it's great. I'm glad we have an emergency preparedness plan. It seems to me that it's not as integrated as it should be. You know, the different departments are kind of all off on their own. We're not working as a team. I can see if there were an emergency. I suppose I want to be able to facilitate a little bit smoother working between the departments. I think we could really benefit from that. I think it needs to be a little bit broader in its scope of some of the emergencies that cities may confront today, spill in the river, something like that. And we need to make certain we're pulling in entities such as EPA and some other groups very quickly. So I think it just needs to be clarified. You know, not a great deal, but certainly in a significant way, that it just needs to be able to serve us better if we do are faced with emergencies, where we can make certain that we're protocol too, you know, steps, who does what when. I think that can be improved as well. So really excited about this. This is one of those core documents that any city has, and I think it'll be money well spent, and certainly it should serve us well in the future. Carla, I think we anticipated June
Yeah.
or July?
Conservatively, I want it done by the end of June. I would
Yeah,
like
in the
to-
second quarter.
Yeah, I would like it done sooner, but that's my goal.
Yes, sir, Mr. Philback.
Do we have, included in this, is there something in there for if, God forbid, one of our schools become under siege or something like that, where there's active shooters in here?
That would be combined. I mean, the police department has their protocol for active shooter. We would have our protocol. But this basically ties together who's going to be sitting in the command center, integrating all the departments together. That's what this deals with. What happens when the police have to work with us, we have to work with the health department, this is when everything ties together.
I guess what I'm asking, maybe I said it wrong. Can we get a plan where, I don't even want to say a school, but a school in this city becomes under siege where we've got a serious problem, or can we get a plan where like the fire department and the police department are coordinating together? Because fire department's going to have to play a big role if it happens, because with the manpower, we're going to need you to block traffic or something. I mean,
Well, we were already, actually, the other day, we did a walkthrough of Steubenville High School and East Elementary, ourselves and the police department. And it was for that very reason, was to get familiar with the buildings, because they were having training for their teachers. So we do our own training on that also, but there's a lot of instances where we have to work together, and the emergency response plan will list out, like Tim said, nowadays there are other incidents. Like before, it was always weather emergencies, fuel spills. Well, now you've got all these other incidents. So when we update this, we might have to look into terrorist type activities, active shooter type things. So yeah, it'll include that.
I suppose this is hate to say it, but given the state of the world today, probably a very good time to be doing what we're doing and making certain that we're prepared, or as prepared as we can be. As I mentioned, I would reemphasize, I think that in reading our existing plan and my intentions for the updated plan is to address just that. It's just optimal coordination between our different departments have, we're going to be looking at other plans and getting input from consultants, and they will address those issues, that how we need to be prepared for, as was said, the unthinkable, but we need to be ready for it. Chief, do you have any comments that you want to make from that standpoint?
No, Carlo mentioned it, we just started working with the schools, officers taking tours of the city schools, getting it laid out. And in my training, I have officers who are classes regarding this. And we also have officers that already attended these classes.
Very good.
Mr. Metcalf?
Yeah, Chief Capoli brought up a good point, command center. Or police room? It's command center. So
Should have a police room, and you should have a city manager in the room.
Yeah,
During
okay,
the emergency.
that's nice. And if that emergency takes power off, there's an emergency generator, backup generator, so I'm hoping that that's also part and parcel into number 2 as part of Greg Hahn's looking at.
Yes.
Because it'd be great to have all this planned
Yep.
and have our command center ready to give it all out, and then we have a backup generator if the power goes out, then everybody's in trouble. Yes, Julian, I know you're raising your hand, Willie. You want to-
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
That's my point, we need to make sure that's taken.
That's been one we've talked about for a while. We need to act on it as part of the plan.
Mike Dolak, I think, is kind of looking into that as well, because we talked about that. I stated my grief on it and how I feel like it's highly important, because as of right now, if the power goes out, the phones go out too. So that is something that we really need to take very seriously. And then also in general, the plan that we currently have, the communication log, like who needs to talk to who contacts who, that's not in there. So I think that was our main concern with getting the new plan, because there's no communication of who actually talks to who. And as we all know, communication is the heart of everything. So if we don't have communication, then there's no way we're actually going to be able to solve a problem. So I think getting these consultants and getting communication down will be the best thing that we're going to do, because we have to take every situation as it comes. The communication should be something that's basically on paper. So I'm really excited to see what the consultant does, because I think it will be beneficial to the city. And also, I found it that Carlo may have a different plan than I have, and another department may have a different plan than what's currently in my department. So another thing that we've been trying to do is kind of make sure that everyone has the same thing, and we're getting everything together.
So we have all the money budgeted to do all this, to train everybody, or we just haven't budgeted to do the study?
We have budget to do the study.
Okay.
What comes out of that, if we need additional training, we'll have to look at that point, I think to a dollar amount, really, and also the generator. So we may be looking at that same time, sooner rather than later.
Okay, no problem, there's money there.
Right.
Like Kenny said, I have money to give away. I don't have money to give away, it's just something that's set aside through insurance.
We have to be able to implement the plan. Absolutely.
I have one thing, but anybody else got any questions on the whole preparedness plan? Anybody? Okay, someone, heroin overdose, okay, what is the drug you apply? Begins with a Z. Sarsen?
Narcan.
Narcan. Are our people trained to do that? Are they trained on applying or administering this Narcan? What's it called?
We just went through the training on
What's it called?
Narcan. It's for drug overdoses. It has one purpose. It counteracts the effects of the drug, and a lot of times it brings them right out of it. Our department just went through the training, and we're going to start carrying it. We're going to carry the nasal. All we do is shoot it up your nose, and it should bring you right out of it. Because we're not a full EMS department. We do first responder, we assisted the private ambulance company, but we did feel it was beneficial, just like our AEDs. we have AEDs because sometimes we're there first, and the sooner we get an AED there, the better chance it has of working. So with the Narcan, we felt it was beneficial to the public because sometimes we're there first. And the sooner you administer it, it might lessen the damage that they went through. And like I said, it only does one thing. If you're not on drugs or if it's not needed, even if we would use it on you, it doesn't have any harmful effects because it only does one thing. It counteracts the effects of the drugs that you took. Other than that, you process it through your body. But yeah, we're just going to start doing that. We actually ordered it, and it'll probably be on the trucks within a month.
We're training people then.
We already had our training.
Okay.
Yeah, we're trained to use it.
Okay, good. Okay, anybody else have anything on the emergency preparedness? Nothing? Okay. All right, number 4. Mr. Boland, broken window policy and community policing.
Thank you, Councilman Paul. First item, citywide crime statistics. I would ask Chief McCaffrey to give us his 2014 year-end report and some comments.
Yeah, in your package, you'll find the graphs for various crimes. The homicides, you can see they're down. The rapes, as I said, every meeting so far this year, they were up. But I just wanted to, on the second page of that, I went through the 8 reported rapes. And the report numbers are beside them. Just real quick, for the first one, subject called from West Virginia claiming to have been raped in the city. She left a callback number because she didn't want to talk at the time. Detectives called back, the number was no good, and the complainant could not be located. On the second one, Harrison County Sheriff's Office called our juvenile regarding their investigation of a mother from their area who was allegedly soliciting her 13-year-old daughter in Steubenville. Harrison County handled that. There was no evidence that they could show that she was actually soliciting her daughter in Steubenville. The next one, the 19-year-old claimed she was raped by her mother's boyfriend. The mother's boyfriend claimed it was consensual. There was no evidence either way, so that one didn't go anywhere. The next one, I actually took the call from West Virginia Northern Regional Jail. A jailer reported to me that a female inmate told them that she had been raped in Steubenville a month prior. She had no description. She couldn't tell us where it happened. Nothing. It was a month later. There's no evidence. There was nowhere to go with that. The next one, the girlfriend claimed she was, her boyfriend raped her. He did several things this night. Besides that, he broke into several residences, led police, and I think the state out of patrol on a high-speed chase, and he was apprehended and arrested on other charges. The next one was an actual rape. A 13-year-old had sex with her father's friend. He was investigated by juvenile, and the charges are pending in county. The next one was just a complete false report. One of our regular subjects reported that she was raped several times in Steubenville and gave specific dates. And the date at the time she gave, she was incarcerated in the county jail. And then the last one was an actual rape, which Michael West pled for 2 years in prison. So he's in prison. So as I did when we do this every month, I said, sometimes juveniles are involved. And, you look at it, it's 8, but yeah, that's how they're reported. The robberies, these are all for the past 5 years. Sometimes it looks dramatic, but when there's not that many numbers involved. So robberies were down, assaults were down, burglaries were also down, thefts were down some too. The theft from vehicle, they were down. And I think, yeah, the one that's not on here is motor vehicle theft. I'm sorry, I apologize, I forgot to get that one on there. As I said, it was definitely up. I'll have that on my year-end report, which we submit sometime in February, I believe. And arson, for the past 2 years, we've had no arson. But I think the art department investigated.
Nothing, no call listed as arson.
And as you can see, the past 5 years, we don't have that many arsons. The next page is the shots fired for 2014. And the next report, my annual report, I'll have those compared on the 5-year scale also. But as you can see, it was 90 reported. The actual was just short of 40, which the actual is anytime we find evidence, something shot, shell casings, an actual witness, anything we can investigate. The next page is arrests and citations for 2014. Total arrests, 1,943 people were arrested. And where it says total charges, 2,519. The difference in that being that one person could be charged with several things. That's why that number is different. There were 10 assault on police officers, 21 disorderly conduct charges, 102 intoxication and leg charges, 104 obstructing charges, 406 possessory arrests that would have anything to do with the department and drugs. Any drug arrest is included in that 406. 29 resisting arrests, 1,185 citations, 31 custodial traffic arrests, 773 warnings, and 313 misdemeanor arrests. The possessory arrest does not include the task force, which I'll include in my year and annual report that we usually submit in February.
Any questions for Chief?
Bill, ballpark number, no figures, has there any increase or decrease in crime in the public housing sector last month? I don't know any figures or anything.
Last month,
Yeah, calls to the public housing authorities.
since early December, it's in the Hilltop report, there's been a switch on the shots fired calls. It's now in the North End projects,
Right.
Market Square, and there's still a few on the Hilltop, but the majority of the calls we've had for the shots fired, and some of them were actual shots fired. There was a couple on Union, but they were all related to North End and Market Square.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Mike, you wanted this covered, you had it in an email, I didn't put it on paper, but about the tracking,
Yes, yes.
when we got the new Stillman upgrade, those are marked, and there's actually a letter that it'll alert that a letter needs sent, the same as with our alarms. That's new with the new upgraded Stillman, to keep track of.
How many times?
Yes.
Have we sent any letters yet?
Alarm letter, yes, but not on the other ones.
Not on the other ones yet. Thanks.
Any other questions for the Chief?
Yes, I do. I guess it's a clarity or follow-up question from Mike. So we have not been able to, or we haven't had any reason to send for that, meaning no one has, what is it, after two?
On our second one, we send a letter
Right.
saying a third one, you will be fine.
Right.
So we haven't had any two, okay. Thank you.
The other thing that's not in the report is I usually report it's in the annual uses of force was 1%, which meant officers had to use force on 1% of our arrests, which is good.
Yes, sir. Exactly. Chief, do we have any statistics on prostitution arrests?
As a matter of fact, I got that for you. I won't give names. One girl was arrested five women were arrested, one of them 3 times, one of them twice. One girl was fined $128. The girl that was arrested 3 times, $94, $69, and $94. One that was arrested twice, one charge was dismissed, the other one she was charged $94. There was a male also arrested. His charge was dismissed. And the biggest fine went to a girl who was arrested for soliciting and failing to use sidewalk. She got $219.
That was in 14.
That was in 14. And so far this year, there's been one.
I got a question on it, I guess not for the chief, but for Tim and Gary. Can we have a policy, can we make a policy, would it be able to, if we arrest a guy that's soliciting prostitution, we could put their picture on our website and say, arrested on such and such a date? Oh, well, I would like to put the name in the paper, but that does hit the paper, but at least we can publicize that if you're going to continue to solicit prostitution in Steubenville, we will put your picture, if you are arrested, we will put your picture on the internet, the date you were arrested, and the name of the person. So just so they know when they're coming over, we're going to start actively busting everybody we can, and when we do, we're going to publicize it and see how many guys still want to come to North Street and solicit prostitution.
The only thing I changed, Mike, convicted. Once we convict and put their picture up then. It's because a lot of times you can be arrested and then you could be found.
But when you're arrested, they still put your name in the paper.
Right.
I mean, we'll declare they were arrested for prostitution. We didn't say they did it, just they were arrested. We're keeping track of who was arrested.
Well, we had 3 mugshots in the paper the other day. I said, okay, they're not convicted, they're just arrested. So we can put the mugshots in the paper. I mean, well, I mean, but, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what would be great is the Herald Star every time we arrest somebody, put the picture in.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they can only do, I mean, they're running a business. They're only going to put so many pictures in the paper, where we have our website, we can put it up, public can know, and then everybody, once it's out there, other people will link to it. There are people will be on Facebook, on Twitter, linking, look who just got arrested for solicitation in Steubenville. And pretty soon, maybe we see a decrease in this.
Yeah, I don't have any issue with that at all, Mike. I'd like to consult Gary and make certain that there's no legal hurdles, but I think it's a strong message. A very strong message. That's right.
Can I ask Chief a question dealing with what Mr. Belmagna said? When they get arrested, Chief, is there a call made up to maybe like Jefferson Behavioral or anything to help these kids out? These got to be young women, who really are crying for help. And is there a possibility that could be done, that they could be helped in some manner so they don't have to continue to lead this kind of life?
If you look at their sentences, right now we're in I don't know whether limbo is the right word or whatever. We don't have a sitting municipal judge. Some of these girls, when they were charged their fine, they were also ordered to undergo some sort of drug program. But like right now, we have visiting judges. So.
I just feel bad. I just think it's a shame these are young women who need help, and we could arrest them for prostitution, put them in jail, and we're putting them back out there. And it's 0 degrees out tonight, and we could all jump in a van and drive over and watch what happens, like Mike said. And it's just a shame. We should. I'm not saying that it's our job to do, but well, we got him. Can't we just one phone call to try to maybe have someone come down and help these people is something I'm asking.
Sean, help me out.
Yeah.
There's go ahead.
I know it's a lot of times the chief is lead to, sometimes in the court sentencing there's some of that. I also know that there's been some outreaches with some of the homeless shelters, Beacon House, and some of the other, Mike Thomas particularly, some of the other Justice Behavioral Health people that have been trying to find homes for some of these homeless women. Obviously the bigger problem probably in most of the prostitution that we're seeing probably is with the drug use. The heroin is the major thing. Anytime you have an increase in any kind of drugs in an area or that type of thing, you're going to see prostitution primarily. I think the idea of posting the names and things like that can be one deterrent for sure. Long term, one of the problems we have in the Jefferson County area is we have no particular in-house services regarding any kind of behavioral thing. Everything that we have currently in the mental health or the addiction specialist is all really an outpatient basis. And one of the drawbacks is that if you're relying on someone to have enough stamina or ability to do something on their own to get the treatment. Whereas when you have an in-house, it's considerably more expensive, which is probably one of the reasons we're having issues with it in our county, not funding that type of thing going on. And there's been a push to try to get some of that back. And we had New Alexandria running and some of the other in-house services. You could get someone out of an area, put them out at a dry dock, for instance, for like 30 days, maybe have a better opportunity to do something. But the court doesn't have that luxury right now. The only facilities that we have currently all exist like outside of our area. Pittsburgh, Youngstown, places like that. So there has been a move in the mental health field to try to bring some of that back in our area. But like with all the things regarding health costs and stuff, the major issue that people are facing is it's just aren't sticking expensive to do it. And the problem with the outpatient is if you rely on someone to go there, they're going during the day, for instance, even an outpatient within a facility. They might go there and go for the day and do really well while they're out for the day, but there's nothing for them at night. Maybe an NA meeting or an AA meeting, some kind of 12-step recovery help. And again, that's all real relying on your own ability to do it. And some of the issues you have, obviously, with any kind of addiction is if I could do it myself, I wouldn't need to get the help. And unfortunately, when it comes to addiction, if you don't have that self-conscious awareness to go get the help and be able to do it or have a support system to support you in that, then 9 times out of 10, the reality is going to be you're either going to be locked up, sobered up, or covered up. There's really no exceptions in addiction. And so without those kind of facilities, that can be a kind of a fighting battle. We can find people, which we are. We can arrest people. There's only so much time they're going to be in jail based on particular penalties that are part of that thing. So it's an all-encompassing problem, and I agree with you. It's tragic. If, for instance, there was any evidence of human trafficking involved, there'd be a whole other aspect that could be taken there, could be taken into consideration. I would say currently I'm not aware of any investigations that were leaning us toward that. Although, in bigger cities perhaps, that's some of those issues too, especially if you're underage. The prostitutes that ladies that I'm aware of are definitely in their mid-20s, early 30s perhaps, and all have been drug addicted in and out of the system constantly. So it's a good question, concern. So hope I answered it, didn't confuse it.
Mr. Womack.
Maybe I can make a suggestion, because if we, listen, these are poor souls out there. You're 100% right. These are not prostitutes per se that, from years back. They're all drug addicts. They're there, and they're there at 11 o'clock in the morning because that's when they wake up from being high from the heroin and everything, and then they start working. But to solve the problem for Steubenville, maybe if we pick them up, and you not necessarily put them in jail, but you give them a court date, they don't come, they don't pay their fine, you issue warrants for them, they don't show up for court. They're going to hide. They're going to go to Weirton, or they're going to go someplace else. And if we put the pictures on the paper, because I don't know how many of you guys travel North Street, but it's a flat out shame down there at 11 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon in front of the church. And the pastors, I talked to them down there. Even on Sunday it's going on and stuff. I want to help them, but if I could wave a magic wand, I would take every one of them and put them and commit them just to get them some help because they're sad. It's just a sad situation. But it has to be addressed, and has to be addressed aggressively. And maybe that could do it right there if you get it. I know the Herald Star has a problem with them up there because they're coming onto their property. I talked to the people up there at the Herald Star, and I'm sure they wouldn't mind putting a couple of them pictures on to help out a little bit with doing it. And plus with social media today, you put it on there, they got the Herald Star, WTOV9, they got, you know, you can put anything you want on there,
Only thing I'm just like, are we advertising for them also? I don't know. I'm just, no, really, I'm, look at the other way. I mean, we can put it out there.
They can't get much business.
Well, I don't know. You might be advertising for them. I'm not a big social media junkie.
Oh, you mean like that stuff?
Yeah, you put their picture out there, you might be advertising, say, oh, okay, now I know where I'm gonna find one. I can look for that woman, but anyhow.
I think Mike was more talking about the people's doing soliciting.
Well, I understand
Perpetrator
that
other
too.
than-
So, I know that guy. Hey, I'm gonna go see him, which I don't need that, but.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Greg. The girls need help, and it's the drugs, and all the drug addicts need help, and that would solve it. But if we go after the guys that are coming over, now, if they get arrested and they go pay their $100 fine and nobody knows about them, but they don't care, they got $100. If you put their picture in the paper, they've been arrested, now all of a sudden, their employer finds out. And now, you violated the code of conduct of your employer, now, you may very well lose a job. And then their wife finds out, you know. Their punishment is worse if we publicize them. Heck, we don't even have to arrest them, put a picture in the paper. They could lose their job, and they could have to face their wife or girlfriend. Or
3 or 4 years ago, they put the names in the paper,
They did.
and some of them were owners, business owners. So how are you gonna fire them?
And we kind of talked a little bit about that, I think, Chief, a few months ago.
If you remember.
And with going after the addicts as well as the drug sellers. If I remember talking about that a while back, you know, trying to pose a little bit stiffer penalty on the people using to try to deter them from coming over to Steubenville to get.
I mean, what we're doing right now is not really working, and putting their pictures on their website would cost us hardly anything. And I think it would, and we publicize, we're going to do this, and then we actually follow up and do it. I think it would have some effect. Is it going to eliminate, are we ever going to eliminate all crime? No. We'll always have some type of drug, some type of prostitution, some type of gambling, but we can put a dent in it, and one way to stop prostitution is to publicize the Johns.
I don't know the answer to this question. Would police actual presence in there stop that? I don't know, that's what I'm asking.
What's the question?
If we had an officer who stood right by Urban Mission,
Okay, but that's,
I'm asking, I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I've been up there. I mean, in the afternoon, I ride around. There's one officer on afternoon turn that's very aggressive with them. He's made most of those arrests. But the whole thing is, you only have X number of policemen on X number of calls. So you can't just leave one policeman right there the whole time. They have to answer other calls.
Okay.
I got no choice.
You got all, Chief? Okay, Mr. Levin.
I sit there almost every day because that's a peeve of mine that is so fragrant. And I'm there today, and there's 3 of them working the street. They tried to stop me. I got in a discussion with them, and it ended up in profanity back and forth. And there's a policeman there talking with them and laughing with them and joking with them. And they're walking up and down the street, and they're trying to flag cars down while they're talking to the policeman. I don't know, they're walking in the middle of the street, they're trying to stop cars, and while I'm talking, I pulled up and I talked to the policeman, and while I was talking to him, the girl's trying to pick me up while I'm talking to the policeman. So at that point, I thought that it was best that I just leave, because I'm going to say something that I might regret later, so I didn't, but then, so police presence would help, if it's aggressive, but you can't be, no, that's what happened today. I was up there were 3 of them stopping cars while the police car was sitting there, and while I was sitting there. And so that's what happened today. And I called down to our secretary and had it transferred over there, which she did, tell them what was going on. But we have to be aggressive and serious. That's it.
Chief, I'd like a response.
I'll find out about it, but there's only so much we can do. I mean,
Chief, he was up there, I saw him on that.
yeah, I mean, I understand that, but I'm going to check with him and see his side of the story. But, I mean, you just can't arrest anybody for nothing, you know that. I mean, when we go up there, we tell them to move. That's what we do.
Chief, let me repeat what I said, because my back's to you.
Okay.
They were trying to solicit me while I was talking to the police. They wanted to get in my truck with me. So, and this wasn't a patrolman, it was a supervisor. And they were walking down the middle of the street, and I know that's against the law, and I know it's against the law to stop traffic. And I was a policeman for 25 years, and there was at least 4 violations right there that could have been done. So,
I'll look into that.
Yeah, we're going to look into that, and I think since we put it out at a public forum, we can address it at a public forum, and we will have a response.
Tim, can I ask another question? Can we figure out who from the city can work with the county on the other end, which Officer Scott brought up about that we do not have a residential? That group, where plenty of people have come to all of us, I'm sure, and mentioned that. Where can the city response be? I don't know who that would be, who would help working with that. I don't know if that comes from a commissioner or who that comes from.
I think the Prevention Recovery Board and Justice Behavioral, Mayor, am I correct in saying?
That is correct. The coalition met last Thursday. I attended their meeting at the Behavior Health on Madison Street. Ashley Steele is the new chair of the board, pastor Ashley Steele, from Urban Mission. And that is the Jefferson County Homeless Coalition, along with dealing with several of the problems, drug problems, and homeless, prostitutes, and all. But Ashley Steele is the new chairman of the coalition.
And Angie, this is the issue of addressing the prostitutes. Is that what you're?
No, sir, I'm sorry, I was referring to, we don't have a residential eviction, so when we do start arresting these ladies, we have nothing, when they were addressing it, we have nothing to do with them, it's just going to continue. I didn't know if the city has been working on that with anybody. I didn't know
That was
board thing.
the major part of the meeting last week of the housing, the addiction. Quite frankly, there was about 14 agencies representing community action counties, so I'm trying to think around the table. Even Southeastern Legal Services, which Mr. John is leaving, might somebody's taking his place. There was a nice coalition around the table. We do have a date count of the homeless coming up. It's going to, might have been today, or this coming Thursday. And hopefully, once they get all the statistics together, they'll be able to start addressing the problem.
Thank you.
I think you'll be great on that coalition.
Okay, before we go on, is there anyone else who wants to speak on this subject? I mean, if there is someone that has something they want to say, you're more than welcome to talk about it. It is sad, they do need help, and maybe there's some people that want to say something. I don't know if you feel intimidated or you feel, but if anybody wants to say anything, speak now for hold your peace. Okay. All right, we'll go on to the next bullet point. Chief, I'm sorry, Chief. I'm sorry. I didn't see. You asked. No problem. Go ahead. I asked you.
Well,
Thank you.
on the point that you addressed the chief was, if you put a policeman on North Street, don't move to South Street. If you put a policeman on South Street, don't move to 7th Street. I've seen it. And I'm not saying anything about what Councilman Villamagnus said, my initial response was, if you put a policeman there, they'll go somewhere else. You know, I'm just saying, so you're gonna be chasing them all around town. But it's a start, so. That was about my point.
Anybody else? Okay. All right, we'll go to the next bullet point then, which would be the Hilltop Neighborhood Strategic Safety Plan. Mr. Bowen?
Thank you, Willie. A couple of things, updates to bring up. I am happy to report that our first task force meeting will be February 19th, and I'm very pleased that will include our city schools, also the residents of the 2 Hilltop neighborhoods, representatives, and also I'm hopeful that we'll have representation from the business community. So I think that this is, as I've stated before, task force are typically an integral part of community policing, and I think we have some good momentum in the Hilltop neighborhoods at this point, but we need to continue that, and a well-represented, engaged community task force, I think, will be of great value in those areas. Chris, did you want to mention a little bit about streetlights and streetscape?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Sorry.
I got a statement. First of all, this is the last time I've talking to the Walls for the last 3 or 4 years. It says up there, partnership. Well, I don't see any partnership whatsoever. It seems like it's always the city council and the police department. We have bankers, property owners, and real estate. They're part of the problem. They have to be part of the solution. They can't stay outside of the ball field. We're playing shorthanded. Also the citizens. They come down here and voice their opinion. When the time to get in the game, don't say it. Had a big hearing last week on the Hilltop. 2 people showed up. But yet, when it comes to council meeting, they'll come down here and want us to do all the work. We will do our work, but we need help. And people have to get involved. And I'm going to say for the last time, if they don't come to us next time, Tim, I would suggest you and the mayor go to them. Ask them why they aren't here. They have organizations. Someone's the leader in that particular place. They have presidents. Send them a registered letter and go to them. I've been in the meeting before. I'm not welcome. I don't know why. So I think if we're going to do things on that Hilltop, everyone has to get involved. And everyone has to go to their meetings, not just council. We're only one part, and so is the police department. We need cooperation. A good example was the housing authority. We have a lot of cooperation down there now. It's going to take us a couple of years, but we're going to make amends because everyone is cooperating. So this is the last time I'll bring this up. I'm tired of talking to the 4 walls.
If I could respond, thank you, Doc, and I agree. I think that, again, with the task force and that's a start, and certainly the response that I've got from the chamber, I think was one of the groups, I think you would agree, needs to, and the business community. Absolutely.
They got property there, selling the bankers. They leave these houses alone.
Our universities, education, school district.
Right.
So I hope to be able to continue to report the growth of this task force, and I don't disagree at all.
Thank you.
With what you said.
Tim, is that task force meeting open?
That's a great question.
Or can I get added to it?
What's that?
Can I get added to it?
I suppose, and the only reason why I hesitate is I was going to open that up to the task force members, how they felt that, and to be honest, look at other task force. I don't want to overwhelm it. I don't want to. I want want to hear from them, and I guess that's my only hesitation, Mike. The chief and the citizens in that area, schools, I guess I wanted to see how the dynamic went. I'll be happy to look at that. I don't want to exclude anybody. I want a task force that works. That's what I would recommend to council. If that includes everybody in this room, that would be great. If it includes a small number of people in this room, that would be great. I don't know what leads to the success of this group. I just don't. And I guess I'd like to be able to have the opportunity to kind of work that through. So I understand what you're saying.
I live on the hilltops, I represent the hilltops.
Exactly, yeah. So why don't we talk about it?
All right.
And I guess I value your opinion on that. I do. I just wonder if that's, I'd like to look at some models from other successful task force in cities, and maybe they don't have a city manager there. That might be fine. Maybe if that's the way it works best, I think, if anything, if we're pragmatic and we get results, that's what we should be about. But I know what you're saying. I was grappling with that question this afternoon. I was thinking about that. So I guess if I can be allowed to reflect on that.
That's fine, that's fine.
I'd appreciate it. Chris?
Yes,
Street lights.
On the street lights, it helped combine the street lights and the streetscapes because they're both very closely related. We have finished the meeting with the AEP, and they're going to work on what their role will be in regarding the decorated street lights. Fire department finished with the maps, and as you all know, there are larger areas of Hilltop that were on sections of the streets where there are no street lights on the streets. They're at the corners or where the alleys intersect. The fire department will be using the maps and be going out as soon as weather permits to identify which street lights are functioning, which are not, and those will be reported to AEP for action to correct those. Excuse me. With a broader picture, we have a consultant ready to go, and the council has the ordinance, I think it has first reading, to reprogram some CDBG funds to look specifically at the streetscapes in both Lake Bellevue and Pleasant Heights. And by streetscapes, I mean everything within the right of way, including sidewalks, curbs, street signs, and trees, and including the street lighting, and making recommendations and developing cost estimates for how we can, looking at a bigger picture, not just pave the street, but improve the entire right of way, everything between the two lines. Make that improvement, but I think that improvement has a much bigger impact on neighborhoods when you look at it in that sense. So we're ready to go once the ordinance is passed. The CDBG funds then will be reallocated, and then that will move forward. Hopefully, at the latest, being finished by June.
Thank you, Chris.
Excuse me, if I could just add, he mentioned trees, which brings to mind, I am still accepting interested individuals that would like to serve on the tree commission that City Council authorized earlier. I have about 4 or 5 volunteers, but if anybody out there would like to volunteer to serve on the tree commission, please contact my office or if any member of council.
In the essence of time, I can hit some high points, and certainly we'll be happy to answer any questions. Chief, I believe the hotline signage has all been installed,
Yes,
and we are receiving tips.
we have received 4 this year so far.
Very good. Trying to see what other major highlights. The demolition program, Chris, that should be commencing when? What's the time frame on that? If you could?
Finance is working on getting us access to the money, which should be, let's assume any day now. Once we get that access, process of advertising for contractors and beginning asbestos assessments. We'll be grouping them by neighborhood. We have a large list, and we'll be grouping them by neighborhood to get better pricing when you do go out for bid.
Should have access.
So I think I would report that we continue to work the plan and making progress in each of these areas. I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Work the plan and plan the work.
Absolutely.
Well, if you don't mind if I
Yes,
ask
sir.
a question.
No, I don't.
Okay, first of all, just to add on to y'all, don't forget Teresa and her Hilltop group. They do a phenomenal job up there. You talked about people who help. I know you probably need to neglect them, but they're very active there, and she's out there, and I want to make sure that she's recognized for all the work that she does, and in her group. And second of all, going back to Pizza Pie Park, I know that's in Mike's ward, but it impacts both of us there on the hilltops. We have it basically mothballed. You know, where are we at? And Kenny, I'm bring this up to you as your chair of Parks and Rec. Are we thinking about reopening this as part of Parks and Rec this spring, or are we going to continue to keep it mothballed? And if so, when the weather gets nicer out, how are we going to control that?
If I can jump in a little bit, actually that topic did come up at our Parks and Rec board meeting. I think they're going to tackle that issue in earnest at their next meeting, and I would anticipate they may even make a recommendation or a request. I don't know what it'll be, but I think they, quite honestly, I think that they're looking at, and you know, as you would imagine from Parks and Rec perspective, a park we used to have, you'd want to open it up. The point I've made is that criminal activity, crime in general, what we're noticing is down in the Hilltop area. We put this plan together, as council knows, back in late summer, early fall, in response to some problems up there. One of the things we felt that we needed to do to stabilize that area was to mothball that park, not to get rid of it, not to close it indefinitely, but stabilize the area. I think we have seen, and I wouldn't say just mothballing the park has resulted in, that's too simple to say that. I think it's been a combination of things, and having more patrols in the area, more patrolmen in the area, mothballing the park, doing a lot of things. I personally would hesitate to say we ought to change anything at this point. But I do think that the board is, the Parks and Rec board is going to want to bring that issue up to council for discussion, probably sooner rather than later. I'm hopeful that we, though, will, our decisions will be based on the results that we're seeing out in the area. And, being too reactive, I think, can get us into not where we want to go, in my opinion.
And if I could add, Greg, if the board does decide, I'm not on, okay, I don't vote, but I will have a discussion as well. And if we do decide to reopen that park, it's got to be with the police help, and it's got to be, you know, dusk is dusk and no more. I mean, and that's the thing. Right now, we have police presence up there, like Mr. Boland said, things are going in the right direction, seems to be. Is that why? Probably a small part of the reason why. But it's cold out right now, too, so you open a park when it gets warm, and, you know, that could just invite everybody back. So you got to be careful that the board will make that decision on requests coming from the citizens. So. But it's got to be cautiously done if it's done.
Anything else on that subject? Bullet point 2. How about proactive neighborhood cleanup program?
Thank you, Willie. Sean and Chris, maybe a fairly quick overview of where we are.
Very quick overview.
Maybe where we ended up after 2014.
You'll find a couple handouts. Chris prepared a handout, the one that's 14 pages long in his office. Just to give you a heads up, this is everything that we've done, the last page that we've done this year, but up to the time we started in May till December 2014. This will show you all the properties we've gone to. We've had to give citations or issue whatever. Currently, we've given warnings or issued citations or letters, whatever, to people involved in 66 of those are weed violations, 66 are litter, 111 of those were building. Numerous ones, you can see it throughout there, which ones are pending, and those are just different statuses of either getting ready to go to court. One of the things we met together this week to discuss some additional issues to try to make things a little more productive, hopefully on the zoning planning office area. We have a number of folks that will come to court at times, perhaps won't show up or they don't get in compliance. We're going to try to be a little more active in how we can get some warrants issued for those people, and then actually take some stands to go out and arrest them. So, we have some badge warrants to get issued sometimes with the court. Sometimes people, show up and they show up in the next court date, and the court maybe hasn't done anything with it. We can try to catch someone between court dates with an active warrant that we can physically arrest and bring them down and let them experience that process, in addition to being summoned into court. You'll notice from the one single sheet that I gave you, it's has the front and the back. It'll show you the different blocks that we've actually gone to, and that should correspond roughly with this very rough 49-year-old guy map that I made. I'm learning how to do a little bit more with modern technology, and going to be working with Mr. Golek in his office to see if we can come up with perhaps a map or a program that will allow us to actually take a map like this and actually highlight and show areas like that. So, obviously what I have here is just a rough idea of what we're doing. I highlighted a map. But we'd like to come up with a program that will actually be able to show us physically, similar to what some of the pie charts and things you're getting, to try to update some of our abilities to show you physically where we're at. To correspond with that particular map, the general areas in yellow are where we've been. Not necessarily every particular house that all corresponds to the other things, but we've actually, since May through December 2014, we've been in a total of 54 blocks in our hilltop areas. Roughly about half of those in Lindell, half of those in Pleasant Heights. I would say we still have a little over half more to continue to go through for our first run through. You'll also notice on there, there's a couple times I've highlighted where it says, we'll put parentheses, where it says like revisit. We've been back to the block and we've had a continued complaint there, or a new complaint, that type of thing. So that's kind of roughly what we've been doing with the PNC, and then I'll be preparing also my final report for the code enforcement office. I don't have it completed, but I'll give you just a run at some preliminary figures between what came into the police department, through the courts, through council, or through the city manager's office. There were a total of 182 weed complaints that I addressed and disposed of in different ways. There were also 234 litter complaints that we dealt with. We actually had an increase in litter arrests and weed arrests. We had 21 litter arrests this year, where people were cited in a court and had to before they could come to compliance. And there were 8 weed arrests. I'm also like to say that very pleased with the help that we got from the court services, especially Mr. Littlejohn and his community service folks. They were actually kind of disappointed you were looking for a janitor. They were looking to clean it in the building, but gets them out for cleaning the weeds and stuff like that. But they cut well over 500 areas and still going through to find out exactly what they cut. And that would be various things, either city properties, foreclosed properties, things that we had followed through up on and did that. They did a fantastic job this year, as they always do. And I'm also proud to say our grant ended for our litter, for our tires. And the city collected, met its goal. We collected right around 5,000 tires over the 2-year period. And hopefully down the road we can apply for some other responsibilities and all that. That's a general overview. If you got any questions, glad to have to answer anything you got. John?
I'd like to do one more tool. Some of these property owners don't show up, and we can't find house arrests. Put them there, with the property where they live, you would be surprised how fast they are to
Chain
chain
them to
them.
the lawnmower.
I agree. When we get that, permanent,
in other areas, it's worked.
we get that permanent judge, it might be something to talk about, what kind of things are possible.
Oh,
And I'm glad to say that even the visiting judge was very helpful. Judge Spahn did a lot for us too as well. He was giving us some higher fines and stuff like that. This particular judge right now, we work with Mr. United, that's it right, but he's been giving higher fines, and he's actually been imposing also jail time as well for those fines. Often it's been suspended, as long as they stay in compliance, don't get the thing. So we're trying to up some of those sanctions as well to help make it easier. So hopefully, this is the thing we're going to continue. We will continue to do the program as we've been doing, try to modify it if we need to. But the general goal is we're going to continue in those areas on a targeted basis, and we'll continue to deal with those fires that come up in other areas. If there's a big need somewhere else, we do that too. But really pleased, it's been great working with you all. Hopefully have another successful.
how about a grant for next year for the community service? Do we have it?
Research. I will look into that. I believe we do. Mr. Littlejohn, been working with Mr. Lewis and his people he does with the grants. I believe still has money aside. So we started again in April when we begin. And usually that comes through, that's probably like end of May, middle of June, when it kind of kicks in. And then we'll also have to see what happens with the Community Action Council, whether we can get the youth that we get to help out in different areas of the city. But I would anticipate, unless there's some serious changes in the budgeting in the state, that probably that stuff will be forthcoming, or someone will just find those funds later to make that budget.
Summer help too.
Yeah, that's primarily summer help.
Mr. Bill Nye.
I want to say one thing to Sean, or about Sean. I want to give you credit for, every time I've ever called you, and I've called you quite a bit, you've always got back to me mostly in the same day. Sometimes you were on vacation, and one time you had to wait till Monday to come back, which I wanted you to come back. No, seriously, he always, everything I asked him to do, he's checked into, and about 90% of this stuff has been a solution to. Some of it was, just had to live with the people who were wrong when they called. So I want to thank you and commend you for that.
Thank you very much. If anything slips through the crack, give me a holler. We'll pick it up out of the crack, deal with it, and keep moving forward. So, great. Thanks for all that service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
Mr. Boland, it's 7:25. What do you feel is more important than anything on this list left for this evening?
If we could take a shot at it, Councilman Paul, I'd like to do quickly that last bullet, downtown traffic enforcement, and then item number 6, some training and house grant strategies. I think would be important. Chief, downtown traffic enforcement.
Parking enforcement, 2014, 403. Either overtime parking citations or PRA expression. That's just in the downtown area.
Is it a lot, Chief?
Yeah, I forget exactly when it started, but it wasn't always included in
Like
that.
June or July?
Yeah. There was some officer activity in there too, but the biggest part of it was the downtown parking first. What else did you want to cover?
And then, under item number 6, your FBI Academy, training of our police and then the cops.
I have a list, this is for the first half of 2015, what we're going to do training. This is just the first half. 2 patrol officers are going to go to drug interdiction training, 2 detectives to law enforcement intelligence training, 2 detectives to electronic service or surveillance, 3 patrol officers to officer safety training, 3 detectives will go to digital evidence recovery, uniform crime reporting, 1 captain, field training officers, 2 patrol officers. All 4 dispatchers will attend emergency dispatch training. 3 patrol sergeants will attend active shooter preparation. And 3 patrol officer's violent incident. Mr. Villamaga, this is what you
Right here.
had spoke of earlier about schools. Those classes.
Where?
Right there, active shooter preparation, 3 patrol sergeants.
Oh, okay.
And violent incident, 3 patrol officers. That will address what you spoke of. In-service training, as we speak, TASER update recertifications going on out at the community college. State mandated annual continued professional training. That's to be announced. The Attorney General decides on what classes he wants all officers. Most of it's done online, and they do pay us back for that time for the officers. Recently, at a Ohio Chiefs of Police meeting, one of the questions put out for our regionals, the chiefs that attended, was, does anybody have trouble spending that money that we get back? And I guess a few departments, the bigger departments that have large budgets, they don't know what to do with that money, but we never had a problem with it. Finding classes for our officers to take, so we do utilize that money. Mandated leads computer updates. We're getting that Stillman upgrade. All the department has to be upgraded on that. Spring firearms qualifications. And as I mentioned last year, I went through the background checks and interviews and everything. I've been selected to go to the National FBI Academy April 6th to May 12th. And there's 250 people attending throughout the United States and actually the world. The classes I was able to take are listed. One of the ones I really wanted to get in was Drug Society and Contemporary Drug Enforcement Strategies. Out of 250, there's only room for like 35 people in that class, so I had to, I made sure I was one of the first people on the computer to get that class, which I did. And those classes are all college certified, some of them are graduate, so they're listed too. I know if you want to go through that.
I think Chief is certainly to be congratulated for being selected for the academy, and I also think that the training program that's put in place for the officers is something that we need to emphasize going forward. We're only as good as our training, and I think this will be a very positive move in the right direction. We talked a little bit earlier about resources, and I think we can all agree that our police force is understaffed. Chief, we talked about whether there is, I guess, assuming our finances are where they are, and we talk about levies and additional resources, and we've been doing that, but given our resources now, I did ask Dave Lewis and the chief to outline how we would apply for the COPS grant this year to get 2 additional officers. And now that, I don't think we need to go into the details too much, but that report or summary is in your packet. I suppose the important thing is that we need to get the grant in May or in June, apply for it. The cost to the city would be $90,000 over 3 years for 2 officers, and we'd be required to retain both officers for 1 additional year, the 4th year. I suppose, Dave, your thoughts on how we would fund this, what we might have to not spend in order to apply funds to this project.
It's all general fund revenue, or if we pay for this. I had heard some talk about the safety levy, which you guys were discussing. Not quite sure. I think
Tim,
Because the issue, I think, is that we need more officers. This is one way to get more officers.
That was the line item in the finance meeting in February. I think it's an important aspect that we've all talked about, so Will, if you don't mind, we'll add that discussion to finance meeting as well. Continue that.
This would be 3 years, each of those 3 years, Grant would pay 75% of each officer. 3 years. 4th year, we would pick up. But, I would also state that I would never recommend we go into this if we're not going to, as a long-term solution. If we're just going at it to cut those officers in 4 years, that's not where we want to be, in my opinion. Councilman Paul, that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Boland or?
Can I just,
Yes, sir, Chief.
if you're looking at that sheet that I prepared, what that is the 2014 COPS grant. Basic overview on that. And then below were the cities that were actually awarded in the state of Ohio the COPS grant, how much it cost, how much they received, and the number of officers. So it is a pretty competitive grant.
So actually it'd be 90, even if Austintown received the two for $250,000, they gave up, they contributed $90,000. It's always $90,000, or is there?
Well, it depends on the
percentage
pay.
of
They'll pay up to $125,000.
Okay.
Over our pay structure.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I didn't know if it was.
And the other thing, just to clarify, which I checked on again today, I had thought, the idea is to get more police officers, but we'll have a lot of retirements in the next 5 years. If somebody retires, you still have to hire somebody to replace that retiree in order to match, in order to meet the requirements of the grant. You know what I mean? You have to keep, if it's number of police officers at 40, you have to keep 40. If one retires, you've got to hire another one while you're under this grant. I wasn't sure on that, but now I am.
Anyone else have any questions for anyone on the matters we discussed tonight? Okay, with that, I would like to thank everybody back here, and all the department heads for helping us out tonight. Thank you for all your input. Thank you for everything you did for us last year. And, with that, I make a motion that and thank you, Mr. Bold, for putting your agenda together. With that, I'd like to make a motion we end the committee meeting tonight, safety committee meeting. Second. Okay.